And we are live in our continuing series of Svengoolie, the study of Svengoolie and Svengoolie-related materials. Tonight, our guest of honor, a gentleman who I've only been talking to for a short few minutes just now. Please welcome Sam Gambino. Sam, welcome. Thanks for coming on with us.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
So, all these guests that I have put up are mostly, again, credit to Dave Fuentes, known as Terror Dave. So Terror Dave put us in contact, and I was appreciative that you were that you were willing to come on. And so let's just jump right in and take a look at one of your pieces. So, in the realm of wacky packages, somehow the idea came to you to go for a Svengoolie themed wacky pack. Can you tell us a little bit about how you decided to put this together and then the process of having it show up on the Svengoolie show?
Well, doing wacky packages, I thought that Svengoolie had to be represented in something having to do with wacky pack because he's so big with the parody stuff. So I just thought, I started thinking of products and what I could put his face on, and then I thought of the rubber chicken, the whole rubber chicken aspect, and I thought, well, that Sweet Sue chicken broth might be a good way to go for that. So, I just took it and ran with it, and then after I paid, it's not a true that wasn't a Tops wacky package, but it's just I based the design on Svengoolie, so that was never made by Tops, but I figured I'd go ahead and paint that and send it to MeTV, and then Svengoolie showed it on his show. So, I emailed it to Svengoolie and MeTV. So I was surprised. I think it was in 16 when he showed that. I think it was during the Creature Returns, the Creature from the Black Lagoon Returns. So
speaking of that, recently, Sam is definitely our featured guest tonight. And also recently, Nicole Hoff had her Creature Meets Barbie image right here featured on a more recent Sven episode. So we're just looking to, again, highlight Sven. We're looking to highlight artists and artists who have appeared on the Sven show. So that's, I think everybody's in good company to be, having our common interests like this. If I can pull up the next picture. So the date back on this is February 2017. So from the actual TV show, then into the MeTV online. So some of the other influences and some of the other things you draw upon include Twilight Zone and Batman. And again, just further down in that same article, it's mentioned in your wacky pack, Star Wars, Mars Attack. So again, all of these B movies and hot rods, tikis and shrunken heads. Just what a great confluence of things coming together. And right there, yep, samgambino.com. So then, as it mentions in the article, let's, here, before we go into the rest of your work, so how did you first learn of Svengoolie, or what are some of your earlier memories of watching the Svengoolie show?
Well, I'm originally from Detroit, so back in 80, I guess it was 81 through 84, 82, 85, I watched them on Saturday night some, and I remember he was doing a parody of the old Joe Jackson song "Steppin' Out," and it was after Thanksgiving, so the parody was "You've Been Pigging Out." So that sticks out. So it was a good parody, and that was, I guess, around 83 or so when that. But I've always loved the horror hosts, and Svengoolie was right at the top of the list for me. Like growing up in Detroit, you had Sir Graves and you had the Ghoul too, and then you had Count Scary later on. He did a few things. It wasn't a regular show, but Svengoolie, then when he came back on MeTV, it was great because it had been years later, and I started seeing him, and I thought, there's rarely an episode that I miss. I try to see it. That's like my Saturday night guilty, like my guilty pleasure is sitting down and watching Svengoolie, and nothing to be guilty.
Well, guilty pleasure or pleasure. We're in the same camp with that. And let me say that's a direct influence on the time here, I like to, I'm doing a live at 5 series that give people a minute to, after the show, do whatever they have to do, and then jump in for the 7 p.m. prime time
Right.
TV
Yeah, I mean,
show tonight. It's
Saturday
got
night.
a,
Oh, go ahead.
that's
I'm
right.
sorry.
Well, no, I was just saying tonight he's got a Bela Lugosi picture on that I haven't seen before, so I'm looking forward to jumping into that.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one either. And then I was gonna say, like, Saturday night sometime my family or my wife will say, well, let's go out and do this or that. So I do have to miss Svengoolie now and then, but
Right.
on the whole, it's I catch them. I
Yeah,
was
because they're
pleased that he
good to
played
catch.
I was pleased that he played the thing with two heads a few weeks ago. That's one of my
Oh
favorites.
wow, that was, oh boy, oh boy, right there again, covering a variety of subgenres of things. Right, there's the Universal classics, and then there's the Toho and the Kaiju and the Godzilla, the giant monsters, and then you get your thing with two heads. So a
With
good
Ray
variety.
Milland. Yeah, Rosie Greer and Ray Milland. They're just a winning combination.
A true period piece of its era. Wow.
Yeah.
Pre
Yeah.
CGI and all of that stuff.
Right.
Speaking of CGI, speaking of the creature, the Black Lagoon, speaking of the early 80s, did you have the experience, one of those infamous or famous Sven historical moments with the 3D airing of the creature, the Black Lagoon? Were you getting the 3D glasses, or did you miss out on that stuff altogether in the summer of 82?
I missed out on that, but like I mentioned Count Scary earlier, he was big in Detroit, and I got the 3D glasses. I think that was around 85, and he played Gorilla at Large in 3D.
Oh,
But I missed out on Svengoolie's his creature 3D, which maybe it'll come back around again, hopefully.
or it might have had such a legendary mismatch the first time around. It might not make it to. But so when you were watching the other one in '85, Gorilla, which
Gorilla at Large, yeah, I think it's 1954. It's Raymond Burr, and it's a gorilla goes wild at a carnival.
So right in
And
that
you
same
really,
era.
the only thing that I remember with those that looked actually 3D was there was some smoke, and it looked like the smoke was coming out. I don't remember anything else looking spectacular in 3D, but I did have the glasses on.
At least you had that. At least you had the 3D smoke.
Yeah, I forget. There was an explosion or something. There was some smoke, and I thought, "Wow, that smoke looks like it's coming at me," So, but yeah, I mean, I just all Svengoolie's parodies and everything. I remember his stuff in those during the commercials more than I remember watching the movies actually back then.
As is the case, I think I could speak on Dave's behalf. I think it's safe to do that. That the parody songs are one of his top points of interest or one of his top appreciations. And I said this at the recent C2E2, the Comic and Pop Culture Convention, that Sven had a panel discussion. And I've had this talk with Dave now, and then somebody else came up to the microphone to make his comment. And so this other person also said that he would also put the tape recorder up near the TV and record either the comedy bits and or the musical bits. And I was just like, wow, that's such a thing of its era that, now recordings are so different and things, I think it would be atypical to hold a tape recorder up to a TV now versus the phone. But it's the point is it was good, funny material, and it was of that same vein of humor as the Wacky Packs and all that.
Yeah. I think everybody of our age has experiences with those cassette recorders. We had an old Panasonic, and you'd hit those two buttons together, and there was no. And then when you played it back, I mean, it was muffled sometime, and you could barely hear it, but it didn't take away from all of the excitement of being able to replay something. So, but. But anyway, yeah, I Svengoolie, I'm just pleased, and 2.5 hours now on Saturday night is even better.
Agree. The more the merrier, the more the better. I'm again in agreement with you. So over the years, he's had different sidekicks. I tend to call them mascots, but I think they're more into calling them sidekicks. Have you had a favorite sidekick, or can you point out something that you thought was particularly that caught your interest that any of the sidekicks had done across the years?
One of my favorite, I'm not sure, I forget what he calls with the name, but it's the skull with the mustache. Just cracks me up.
It's Almond
You know,
Tombstone.
I
Yep.
mean, I like Kerwin, and but I like that skull with the mustache.
That's my all-time favorite. Yeah, Kerwin's great. Kerwin's got a good following. The
Yeah.
talking bit on the hood of the coffin, Buddy Sorrell, he's pretty good too. But yeah, my all-time favorite is absolutely Tombstone. And again, when I was a kid, I was just like, as I've said before, I was so captivated by a talking skull on the TV. It was just real good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing more of him.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
All right. Any other Sven highlights, and then we're definitely going to look at your variety of your artistic expressions that are in your catalog of your completed works. But any other Sven impressions or comments?
Well, I wish was able to see some of the early Svengoolie. Is it Jerry Campbell or
Jerry G. Bishop? Jerry G.
Bishop? Okay, yeah. So I've not seen any of those, but I would have liked to have seen some of the very old stuff. So that goes about 10 years before I discovered Svengoolie. I don't even know if they were playing him in Detroit back then or not. But
I would guess not, but I do not know for a fact. And I think, to be honest, Sven-ology is my little funny name for the study of Sven. But I didn't realize he was being played in Detroit until speaking with you or emailing with you before while we were setting up for the show. So again, I'm here to learn as well. There is the Jerry G. Bishop stuff floating around on YouTube, but yeah, it's in short bits and they're treasured pieces. But yeah, it would be tough to find like a full episode or it would be unlikely that would get broadcast on TV again.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so anything in 82 or 83 when I seen them, that was when I was watching them. I was around 14 at the time. So as I started getting older and in high school, I was out doing other things on Saturday night. But when I was home, that was that was what I enjoyed, was watching Sven.
So. And it all goes full circle because now, as we've aged across the decades, here we are looking largely forward to staying on a decent number of Saturday nights. So absolutely.
Yep.
All right. So again, you have, besides just a wacky pack style of art, you have different styles that you tinker with, or different styles that you manifest. So tell us a little bit, what are we looking at here?
Those are some of the mugs I designed for KC Hawaii a few years back, and I still see them around, and they did the little shot mugs and then the full size mugs. So and by the way, I do actually do wacky package art for tops. It's just that the Svengoolie one was not an official wacky package, but I've done like 20 somewhere between 20 and 30 wacky package art pieces for tops. So
I know how to, as a kid, open the wacky packages. I know how to appreciate them. How do you get connected with the wacky pack people that they produce your designs into the actual cards?
I just, I did an actual painting for an art show. There was an art show they were doing, and I did a whiskey bottle with like a kind of a devil guy, like an old distinguished looking devil head, like a grandpa, and I called it old Krampus. It was the Krampus Christmas. That was what the show was after, a Krampus oriented show. So instead of old granddad, I did old Krampus. And so I did it in the style of a wacky pack because I used to love fishing around in the bottom of a loaf of Wonder Bread to find those, or I think they came in like in Hostess snack cakes too, and I think they might have came in those. But then we'd buy them too, my brothers and I. So I did that, and then I took a picture of it. I emailed it to. I just emailed it to Tops. I tried to find email addresses of people that if they seen it, they might say, hey. So I ended up getting it, emailing it, and I heard back, and he said, well, we could use your work, if you, but you got to do it on a flat board, because I had done that on a canvas, and you can't have texture. So, excuse me, I did it on he said you'd have to work on flat board like masonite. So he gave me one I could do for the next series. That was in 2011 or something. Might have been around 2010. And so I did it on masonite. I did it really big because I do all the lettering by hand. And I think some of the artists now are doing digital lettering on there. But see, I started out as a sign painter, so I tried to do everything by hand, no matter how small the lettering is. And I just like the charm that you see. There's a charm to something that's all completely done by hand. So I do try to do it all by hand now. And instead of just painting, the background and then adding the letters digitally. And it is neater that way. But as an old sign painter guy, I thought I got to try to stay true to my sign paint. My dad was a sign painter, and I worked with him after high school. So I thought I got to try to do this by hand. So that's kind of like a lot of mine. If the lettering looks a little looser, that's chances are that's one of mine. So.
Well, Sam, let me say, this is truly interesting and fascinating to me to learn the process of the assembly of the art. And then also I want to draw the comparison to in the old days before the TV stations and before everybody had the CGI or computer related business, that Rich Coes would hand draw out a lot of what they did on the show, whether it appeared as a graphic or whether it appeared as a solid piece of media. So just one more common thing between you and Sven himself. So that's kind of cool, I must say.
Yeah, I love those puzzles he does where he draws the pictures.
Oh, yeah,
that's a highlight for me now. I like, he does have talent drawing. I can tell, by watching him do that. The marker on the paper.
Truly a multifaceted, multi-talented kind of a guy.
Yeah. So.
All right, now we do have a couple of comments in, and so I know we're kind of going back and forth, Sven and Wacky Pack and Tiki, but we'll be coming in a bit more Tiki bit here. Okay, so Fanboy Cantina, our other channel, thanks for jumping in, giving a good let's go. And here's a question from the audience for you, Sam, to be followed up by Jim Campbell. Jim, let me give you this. Jim Campbell throws a boomerang question, a stumper question, but let's warm up with this face value question here. So if you're at the Tiki bar, do you go for pineapple, or do you go for chocolate or Mai Tai, or what is your, if you can say, what would be some of the things that you would tend to steer into when you're actually at a Tiki spot?
Yeah, I gotta say I enjoy the Mai Tai if it's a tropical drink. If it's just a regular old drink, my favorite is just bourbon on ice. But yeah, the Tiki bar, the Mai Tai, that's the way I have to go,
Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah.
All right, so here's Jim Campbell, who at the time that he dropped this comment a couple of minutes ago, just joining. Do you have any? We'll come back to Campbell. Han shot first, gives an exclamation point for the Mai Tai. So Campbell's question: are there ever any copyright issues that you need to navigate or work around?
Well, I have a lot of my artwork copyrighted, and because I paint these faces and I put my own spin on it, my own surroundings, I have a lot of them copyrighted, and you copyright them as derivative of if it has a celebrity or something in there. And I don't really sell a lot of the. I think if you sell things with an image on it, in big, like if you sell them in big numbers, I think you can get in trouble. But I mean, a lot of this stuff I put in art shows, or if you do a one-off painting, you know, you don't have issues with that. And if it's and then there's the parody loophole comes in where you can parody things. So I've never had copyright issues. I've had some paintings of mine ripped off and seen where there's stickers being made all over the place, and you know, I guess they get them from my website. They get some of these. I've seen there's some salt and pepper shakers that have my name on them that somebody continues to sell.
Man. We've had our other pal, our other major contributor and co-host, Chai Star G, has had a lot of what he'll do is currently is designs for logos for different races, and then he'll find. Well, anyway, I don't want to go too much into it, but again, you're having a similar experience to our group of our gang of knuckleheads already, so that's really good.
Right.
Let's look through. So Fanboy saying most popular design or a particularly favorite creation of your own, or I guess that's the way he's intending the question. Is there something in your own inventory that you have an extra connection to?
Everything I do is some paintings I do are just ones that I've wanted to do for years. It's always the one I'm working on or just finished. It ends up being I am proud of the wacky package stuff because I mean, I grew up. I mean, that's some of my earliest memories are getting those wacky packages. So I'm proud that I do. You know, I'm proud of those. But I don't have a one piece. I got a couple mugs that I'm proud of. A lot of them I'm proud of, but like I got the Swami mug that came out last year, and they're coming out with another one from Tiki Farm. I've done a lot of mug designs for Tiki Farm out in San Clemente, California. And here's the Swami from last year. I'll hold them up close here. See if I can get them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. See, look at the detail on that.
Yeah, it's a three-eyed Swami, and the one they're going to come out with has a red turban. So these sold out last year.
I can see why. That's a good-looking piece.
I don't know that there was ever a Swami mug done, so
finding a niche.
Yeah. So Tiki Farm, I've done a lot for them. I've done a lot for KC Hawaii too. They're both, you know, they've both been good at putting out. Oh, there's the picture. That's a better picture of it right there.
Well, but this is lit and all that versus you're holding it up. But either way, it really shows. On this one, you can really see the. So you did the image. So did you do like the carving on this also, or?
No, what I do is I do the front view. I do a pencil, you know, like a pencil rendering of the front view and both sides and the back. And I send that, and then I usually have to do some tweaks, and then they have somebody sculpt them, and then they have them made and glazed and everything. We talk about the colors and the different glazes that can go on them. So that's but that's how he was born. So yeah, I do the sketches though. I do the front, back, and side views. So
that's great. So another image that we have. So the poached poet. How did you get the idea for this guy?
That's the beatnik shrunken head there. that's actually about to be released by Tiki Farm. So it hasn't been released yet, but the picture's out. So the picture's been out. So yeah, he's just, you know, instead of just doing a beatnik mug, I was talking with Holden, who's the head of Tiki Farm, and he said we should try to, you know, do something put a little weird spin. So we had to do and you know, when you're talking beatniks and cool, I mean, there's always an element of tragedy with, you know, and that makes somebody cool, I guess. You know, there's the brooding. So why not make him a shrunken head, you know? So you know, that's what you got. He's got the bone in his nose. He's got his eyes and his mouth sewed shut. So
he's seen better days.
I've always liked the whole beatnik culture too. You know, the coffee shop culture of the late 50s and early 60s. You can watch the old shows, you know, Perry Mason and all that, and the old Alfred Hitchcock shows, and the subject matter will be something to do with beatniks, you know, and banging on the bongo drum. So, and I thought, well, you know, I'd like to do a mug like that. So, you know, Holden, he was nice enough to say, "Hey, that's a good idea," and so that's how he came about. The old beatnik, the poached poet.
That's real good. Oh, okay. Beatnik poet, poached,
Right.
converted a shrunken head. Now, at first, it didn't click for me, but thanks
Yeah,
for
I mean, he's poached. Somebody poached him, you know, hunted him down, you know. And he's a poet, you know. They like the, you know, the beatniks. What's a beatnik if he's not into poetry, you know?
a renegade beatnik or an outlier, an atypical kind of a guy.
Right.
So definitely we're going to look at some more of the images in a minute, but I wanted to come to this. So of course, Dave's idea or Dave's recommendation on its own, solid. Let's go ahead with it. But then as you were starting to show me as I was walking through your website and it's samgambino.com. And so then, well, let me see again, let me get him to the front. So just recently on the same very channel, when we do some hot dog eating episodes, I had gone to Gene and Jude's, and then right across the way from Gene and Jude's is Halakahiki Lounge. And so this was right there in the gift shop. So then I was like, wait a minute, you designed this, but I just picked this mug up just a short time ago. So I was just that I say with Dave about synchronicity or Sven-icity, or just the convergence of things coming together.
Just things coming together, you know.
Yeah. So that was good stuff.
Yeah, that was based on a painting I did back. It's been almost 20 years ago. I think it was 04. So yeah, does that one now there's a pinstripe design on the back of that, right? Is it on,
well, here, let me turn it around. So
there it is, yeah. See that?
Let me try to get it in good and close so people can.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's you know, because I do pinstriping work. I do work on hot rods and motorcycles. So I thought, you know, and the original painting had pinstriping in it, so I had to put that little pinstripe design on the back. So
right, it would be, unless they were handles, it would be impractical to have the pinstriping in any other way, but how it came out on the mug. So
right,
so,
yeah. So like pinstriping and sign painting, that's how I got started in all this, you know. So my dad pinstriped outside of Detroit since he was started in 1956 in Detroit. So, and I worked with him in 86 after high school. So from 86 to around the early 90s. So that's how I picked it up. So I had to work a little pinstriping in there. So
I appreciate you giving us the history on that. And again, mid 50s, mid-century modern, time of 3D monster movies. Again, just all these cool elements of things coming together. I see we're stacking comments, so we'll go on to your other stuff in a quick second. But let's okay. Fanboy also loving wacky packages. You get a wow and a nice and a love it. Nice succinct comments from the fanboy. So appreciating those. Yeah, this. Hey.
Yeah, I appreciate old fanboy there. I appreciate the nice comments.
Thank you. All right, so let's come back to the picture. So okay, yeah, we'll recap. We got the hypnotist, we got the poached poet, and now right there over your shoulder, and now before our faces. This is a current to the current year of 2023.
Yeah.
Take us through. What are we looking at?
You know, like I said, in the 70s, I grew up looking at wacky packages and watching the $6 Million Man. So, you know, and that there, I thought, what would you know, Andre the Giant played Bigfoot, and I think Ted Cassidy played Bigfoot on $6 Million Man too. This is the Andre the Giant Bigfoot version, Sasquatch, and I thought, you know, if he was ever in high school, there must be one of those Olin Mills photographs of him. I said, and I couldn't find one, so I said I better just paint one. So I painted him that way, and yeah, that's over my shoulder there. You can see half of it back there, but he's yeah, I just thought that's a painting I've been wanting to do for a long time. So
let's do this. I'm going to bump you over, trade spots with you, and give you one shot so we can see
Oh,
it a
there we
little bit
go.
better over your shoulder. Man,
Yeah.
that's real good. That is real good. Let's jump back. Okay. And now we're where we were. So again, from it, just the expressions. So the upper corner one, it looks like it's like a philosopher. It looks like he's deep in thought or he's having some profound realization, and then just a very different facial expression on the other one. I'm just impressed with your ability to convey different emotion for the face of Andre the Giant, as was made up for the $6 million man show as Bigfoot.
Well, those were two of the few pictures I could find of them, and they happened to work, in that, in that context. So, there were pictures. There's a picture of me somewhere with that I had done in high school with the double exposure like that. So, I kind of used my own picture for reference from the 1980s, and I thought I'll have to paint him that way. So. So yeah, I use acrylics and enamel on those paintings. Because the enamel. So I use a lot of lettering enamel, and it's oil based. And then I've gotten to where I do a lot of the real looking stuff with acrylics, and the lettering is in enamel. So that's kind of a mix there. But most of his face and everything I did with acrylics. And then I did the name in the corner with lettering enamel. Good old fashioned sign painter's one shot. So that's what the name of the enamel is. So.
Excellent. Campbell jumping in that he, as a young guy, he loved the Bigfoot toy and the episode, right? This was a time. Now things are so franchise influenced now, or the Marvel universe, the DC, the Star Wars, Star Trek. There's the major franchises, but before the franchises were what they were, you had more room for your TV shows of Steve Austin, and well, I guess it was a franchise when they also had the Bionic Woman, but it was on a very different scale, I'll say. And so again, the fact that you would zero in on this is so it's great stuff. It is great stuff.
Oh, yeah, I mean, like all of the Munster. I grew up watching the Munsters, all of that stuff. Yeah. $6 Million Man in the '70s. I still love to watch the old detective shows from back then. So. And every now and then I get an idea of a painting, so I just do a painting of it. And like I say, it's kind of like a pastime of mine, and it's a little something that takes me back to the old days. It was always good to get a box of Count Chocula or Frankenberry and get that prize inside. There'd be like a glow in the dark poster of the Phantom of the Opera or something, or just all of that stuff. And some of the old games back then were kind of scary oriented stuff. I was a big Scooby-Doo watcher too, so some of that figures in.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And see, and as Fanboy G and I have said, very often we'll say about the simple pleasures of life, and this is kind of through YouTube now, having the same conversation or the same style of conversation that we used to have on the playground back in grade school, back in those days. And it's great to revisit that kind of stuff and that kind of material.
Yeah, I mean, it just brings back great memories. So like when I got my kids are now around, I got a son who's 19 and my daughter's 22. And I mean, they like all the same stuff. I mean, they kind of, I kind of introduced them to that. They've grown up watching all that. So it's good to kind of pass the baton, so to speak,
Passing the baton. Excellent. All right. So now here's a different kind of a thing what we got going here. So this is yours from a couple of years ago. It's an interesting thing. Tell us, how did you come up with this one?
Well, there was a restaurant we used to go into, when I was a kid. It's closed now, but they had the print. That print, the real print is a photograph, really. I don't think it wasn't done as a painting. It was a photograph of the man praying over a loaf of bread. Very simple meal: loaf of bread, a bowl of water, and I think there was a book on the table. And I just, after the whole Popeye's chicken craze, I thought, a guy today would be just as happy and just as just as thankful to be praying, to be saying the blessing over that Popeye chicken sandwich. So I thought I'll do that. And that picture, I painted that as, to look like the photograph. And I actually went to Popeyes. I got everything that you see there. I put it on a table. I looked at the original photograph, and I seen which way the light was being cast onto the loaf of bread and everything. So I put that on a table and put it under a lamp and shine the light. And I took a picture of it, and I painted that and painted him. So I had to try to get the lighting correct, with so I had a Popeye's chicken sandwich sitting around the house for a few days, taking pictures of it. But the things you do for art, what can I say?
I'm impressed.
But that's just one of those paintings I'd wanted to do. I get these ideas, and I think of something Waffle House oriented sometime. I don't know quite yet what I'll do, but for some reason Waffle House and Whataburger, they keep coming to mind. So I'll probably be doing something, oriented in that direction at some point. So
a very different look, a different style, and I guess different media compared to the Wacky Pack stuff, but something, a common thread across them is we're going to take an original thing and put a different spin on it. And wow, I mean, to me, that could have been like an Ernest Hemingway kind of a look there, but definitely.
Man, that's where that copyright thing comes in. It's a parody of the original picture, so
yeah.
It's you can do parodies. So I've grown up, I've always loved mishmash things and parodies. So that's where I thought, why not, And what, I've watched Bob Ross, and I learned how, and my dad and my uncle were artists. My dad was he was the sign painter and the pinstriper. My uncle did paintings. Had Uncle Joe Gambino. He was in Detroit. And then I've watched Bob Ross. So, between my dad, my uncle, and Bob Ross, I learned how to blend paint and kind of try to do some realistic looking stuff. So that's kind of how I got into that, with the trying to do the realistic stuff. So I enjoy it. And sometimes I'll look at a painting that I finished and I'll think, how did I even, some things I'll look at, I'll zoom in on certain things and I'll say, how did I even do that? But it's just when you get into it, you're blending that paint and I use my finger to blend, and I use dry brushes, whatever I can, like if I do clouds, I'll even use a sock to blend the white into the blue, I'll put a sock on my hand, and so it's just whatever I'm doing at the time. So sometimes I'll look at a painting and think, I don't even really know how I did this certain thing, but it ends up, once you get into it, you just do what you got to do,
The creative process, or the creative mechanics to go with the creative thought process. I suppose.
Yeah. I haven't seen Bob Ross use any socks on his hand. What he does, he is big with the 2-inch brush. So
maybe we've already just answered this a touch, but so inspiration, there's got to be a variety of different things you're drawing inspiration from. Childhood things that stand out for us that are fun to remember, a little bit of watching your dad and your uncle put things together. Do you have other things that are inspirational elements?
I mean, I've kept some of the old toys I had from the 70s. I mean, I still got the $6 Million Man doll that I had back then. I have the Evel Knievel doll, and the motorcycle that went with them. I can't say I play with those things now, but they're just cool to still have.
Definitely.
So, but yeah, it's all of that stuff, and and I shop thrift stores. I find just unique things. I get inspiration from that. But, I enjoy watching Tubi too. There's a lot of good old shows on there. So Tubi and some of the other streaming, YouTube. So All inspiration comes from and I have a collection of old magazines, even old Reader's Digest magazines have good old ads in them and things.
Right, they capture the art style or the different house styles of those time periods. So yeah, that's
Yeah, I
valuable
mean,
treasure.
back then they would see. It's just amazing. They would have people paint these ads instead of just photographing them, and it just gives it such a, like I say, there's just such a warmth, a charm, and an artistic quality that I love from the old illustrations, and that a lot of that stuff wasn't just photographed. It was, it was an artist actually drew all that. Like some of the old, I guess they're like old Shell gas station ads. It'll show the family in the car in the 1950s, and they're on vacation, and you can see the Monument Valley through the back window, and I just love that kind of stuff. The old covers of Popular Mechanics, and like the Theremin, that you had, that Theremin painting. That
Speaking of the
yeah.
Theremin, that cues us up. Here we are.
The Theremin painting, I found an old ad and based some of that on the old ad that was in a Popular Mechanics, and of course he's from the Twilight Zone. The Theremin, the guy playing it there, the To Serve Man episode of the Twilight Zone. So, but yeah, I'll get inspiration from a lot of different things and put them into one painting. Like you got. The flying saucers, of course, that's from the old 1950s sci-fi movies, and then Twilight Zone and then the Popular Mechanics, the Theremin positioning there. So, so a lot of that comes from different places.
I'm enjoying the image, and I'm enjoying the backstory on how all the things got woven together for it. That's real good stuff. Again, Twilight Zone. Right, black and white. The black and white enhances it, but it was definitely something to keep us all glued to the screen and give ourselves in our younger years food for thought about the different things that Rod Serling was trying to tackle or address.
Yeah.
All right, next up now, different than Rod Serling, a different innovator.
That's Walt Disney there. He's holding I painted him holding one of the mugs that I designed. If you want me to, I got the mug. I got a mug over here.
That would be great. That would be great.
Well, hold on, give me a second.
Sure enough. And in the meanwhile, I'll just say here's another image that we'll be speaking on in a second here, but go right ahead.
See, there's the mug. That's a Tiki Farm mug. Let me back it up a little. I think that's the mug I've got that I painted him holding there.
Let me come back.
And this one, yeah.
Oh yeah, his fingers. You painted his fingers over the. But
his fingers it's over the horseshoe.
Would you say that's an Elvis style collar on his shirt there? Or?
Pretty much, yeah. Because it's a Vegas. The name of the mug is the Player, and I'm having a little rough time positioning it, but. It's the Player. He's like a Vegas player. See, there's dice there and a horseshoe. So, but that's what I got. That's what I painted Walt Disney holding, and that's a parody of the old Martin Denny Exotica LP. And I originally painted that for the cover of Tiki magazine, and it ended up coming out a little bit. It was a little darker attitude of painting and I think they were after something a little more a little brighter or a little bit more lighthearted. So because Walt, he does look intense in that painting. So that's the cover that ended up being, that's what the painting there that ended up being on the cover, and that was back in, I think, I don't know, 2011 2012. But I'm proud that they let me do the cover for Tiki magazine for that edition.
Yeah.
But see, and if you can kind of visualize the Walt Disney painting, if that Tiki magazine logo was up in the corner, I kind of painted it so that if the logo was so it would work with that logo. But anyway, it ended up just being a painting, and and not ended up on the cover, but I like the one that ended up there as well. So it's a little more whimsical, but it was, I was really glad that they let me do the cover for that edition. Yeah, I do get weird commission work sometime. uh, let's see, I've not, I don't do I don't paint anything vulgar or anything, but I have had to do things that I'm thinking, why, but I do them. And, I had to paint a guy in a chair one time, reading a book. So I based other paintings on some of the old magic posters too. But, you know, just, but I do, yeah, every now and then I get a weird commission painting. Nothing too crazy weird, but then again, some of my artwork can be, classified as weird, I guess.
Well, I would think in the best of ways. And again, you have some young people friendly, wacky pack, sarcasm and puns and twists on things. And then you have the tiki culture, hot rod culture, more of the grown audience. So, I mean, I think the net you cast is really wide and really well connected together.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you get in, what's really good. You watch those old beach party movies, and like they seem to hit on every genre. In, you got the surfers, the skydivers, the drag racers, the beatniks, the bikers. Those they can be described as being cheesy, those movies, but they do, they just got all that in there. And the beatniks, I mean, they touch on everything. So, I get inspiration from stuff like that as well. So, beach blanket bingo. One of my favorite movies is Easy Rider, so I like, I even there's things in there that I find, inspirational. So
it's all fair game. It's all fair.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, Jack Nicholson with that football helmet on, So,
I was almost going to slide into a Jack voice, but I'll just try to keep it more in my own regular speaking pattern now instead of trying to replicate one of the greats. And speaking of greats, so again, Sam, your website is samgambino.com.
right.
People can see all your variety of stuff that you have on your website. And if people are more interested in wacky packs or tikis or hot rods or mid-century stuff, or you have a great variety of different things there. Do you have anything else that if anybody's watching, whoever might be watching, anything they should know before we start to wind down and wrap up?
No, I mean, I think we've touched on everything. I just appreciate you having me on, asking me to take part. It's been fun.
I appreciate that you're willing to come on. And again, appreciation to Dave, Terror Dave. And speaking of things to check out, terrordaves.com blog. So again, if this kind of stuff, if somebody happens to be watching and doesn't know about Dave's blog, please do check out the blog. Again, the Fanboy Cantina channel covers a lot of pop culture material from a lot of different eras. So
yeah. One thing I think the world of Dave. I appreciate him for pointing me in pointing you in my direction or me to your direction. I thank you, Dave. And it's
thanks, Dave. And cheers to Dave. And already interesting that the Tiki Mug thing. Jim Campbell always wants to throw some questions toward the end there. So we'll make a final question. AI art and what's your read on the current trend or the current innovations within AI art?
Okay. Oh, well, if it can get as weird as I try to get, if it can get weird, then I'll just get weirder, I guess.
Man, that's a good take. That's a good read.
I haven't really given it much thought, but I thought, I can, like I said, I'd never get vulgar or anything like that, but I got ideas for artwork that I don't know if it would be appealing to anybody but me. I don't know. just weird stuff that comes to mind. If it can get it weirder, I'll just get weirder than that. So I'm not too concerned.
Excellent. All right. Well, thanks for Fanboy for jumping in the comments. Thanks for Jim Campbell for jumping in the comments. If anybody's watching later, please do leave questions or comments for me or for Sam. Sam, I'm real glad we connected. This has been real good. And I genuinely, sincerely appreciate both your product, the art that comes out of you, and learning more about the process. And again, always good to communicate with another Sven fan and pick up some different threads on Sven.
Well, thank you for having me, and I've enjoyed it. And I appreciate you having me on. It's been fun, and it's good to meet you too.
All right, that closes out for this episode of Svengoolie. We'll be back again in the next 2 weeks with some other students of Sven, some studiers of the ways of the Svengoolie. Thanks a lot, everybody, and we will close out. And thanks again.